Coming up, a head-on crash injures 2 people due to dangerous road conditions.
Dangerous cold outside is what we've got to end our work week. We'll have the latest and see if there's any warm-up in sight from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And shelters see strain due to low temperatures in the 4 states.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's talk about this cold weather out there.
Let's do that. Okay, 0 is the magic number at Joplin Regional Airport. 2 degrees is the magic number as far as Martin Johnson Airport goes in Chanute. When we talk about the magic number, that would be the record low for this February the 25th. One at Joplin dates back to 1965. The 2 degrees in Chanute, that's from 2003. And luckily, we're going to stop just a tad bit short of it, even though we've got single digits ranging through southeast Kansas, 7 in Pittsburgh, only 5 in Neodesha. These are actual temperatures, not wind chills. We do have Joplin at 13 and Chanute at 12. Let's roll 18 in Miami and 15 in Monette. As far as what it feels like, however, we are throwing up some negative numbers. We've got a -1 in Yates Center. 4 degrees is what it feels like right now on that line from Commerce, from Webb up to Carthage. All that being said, clear skies, therein lies also, too, our problem with why it got so cold overnight. The cloud cover pushed off to the east, but of course took all the precipitation with it as that storm system along that cold front now is even past east of the Tennessee River Valley. So at least it's well out of our way, and the roads are getting a little bit better here as we progress toward the weekend. Weather trend for today, still going to hover around 30 degrees, so not going to quite see widespread marks above the freezing point. Now, as we work in the Saturday, a little cloud cover overnight, that helps. We like that. And then we actually begin a little bit of a warm up here. Get to throw up some 40-degree temps on both Saturday and Sunday. And then, Tanya, remember, we start off March up into the 60s. That's something else.
Yeah. Wow. I'm looking forward to that warm up. I can't wait for it to get here.
I am too.
Yeah.
I am too. I'm with you.
Get through one more night, right? Well, a few more nights.
Yeah. And then we'll be good for the weekend.
There you go. All right. Thanks, Michael. Authorities say slick road conditions were the cause of a head-on crash last night. Just after 6:30 p.m., Carl Junction Fire, Met's ambulance, and Jasper County Sheriff's deputies responded to a head-on crash just south of the Turkey Creek Bridge at Schifferdecker and Peace Church. According to an off-duty firefighter at the scene, road conditions were very slick. The crash involved a pickup truck and an SUV. Both people involved were transported with non-life-threatening injuries. Joplin Police Department is warning drivers to be aware of black ice resulting from freezing drizzle. Roads can look clear, but have a glaze of ice that drivers may not see, making conditions more dangerous than they appear. This is a developing story, so be sure to follow us on KOAMNewsNow.com for continuing coverage. There were more explosions in eastern Ukraine overnight, the second night of Russia's invasion into the country. President Biden imposed more sanctions on Russian banks and oligarchs and restricted high-tech exports to Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky ordered a full military mobilization and told citizens to remain at home. But a mass exodus flowed from multiple cities, with residents looking to escape. Ukraine also reported Russian troops had taken over the disabled Chernobyl nuclear plant. Well, the crisis in Ukraine is having an effect on gas prices. Wichita, Kansas drivers already have felt how it's impacting them at the pump. Lily Wu has more on the story.
It's time to fill up the gas tank for former Shocker basketball player Cheese Johnson.
Well, I just come from the school that we founded, and it's called U-Jump. And I figured out I need some gas, being that it's snowing out here, so I stopped, and now I'm getting gas at the high gas prices.
Drivers filling up are noticing prices continuing to climb. Unleaded gas has been over $3 since October of last year.
I hope they go back down because, you know, everybody's struggling because of the corona, and, you know, it's hard. It's very hard.
Prices for crude oil have been increasing too. The U.S., Saudi Arabia, and Russia are top oil producers.
Crude oil makes up about 50 to 60% of the price we see in a gallon of gas at the pumps. So as those prices rise through the 90s, even close to $100 a barrel today, That's a significant rise from where we were last fall.
Looking at gas prices over the last 20 years, AAA shows the three highest monthly average prices for unleaded gas for Kansans was back in 2008 and 2012. During the summer of 2008, average prices hit $3.95. The national average peaked at $4.09, and the most recent time we've seen prices hit over $3.70 a gallon was in 2012.
We're still not to where we were in 2008, which was the high point. We reached over $4 in July of that month for a short time. Hopefully we won't get that high this year, but that remains to be seen.
With the need for gas to move across the community, drivers like Johnson are hopeful.
Could hit 4. Hope not, but it could. What can we do? But let's go ahead and pay what we need to pay.
Well, temperatures across the region have remained low the past few days, causing strain for everyone, especially those with nowhere else to go. Area shelters like Souls Harbor and Watered Gardens both say they've seen an increase in people signing up for shelter. At Watered Gardens, they say their beds have been full every night since temperatures dropped. Some challenges to accommodate the needs of everyone have come up as a result.
Make sure everyone's fed and warm and oftentimes during this time we might have a few less volunteers because the roads are slick and people can't get out, but that's understandable. But fortunately, I feel like we have a good set up pretty well to keep things moving no matter what.
Later in the show, we'll hear from Watered Gardens as well as Souls Harbor to hear how they're working to help everyone who's seeking shelter. The winter storm may be on the way out, but the roads can still be dangerous. Road crews in Missouri are working to keep drivers safe, but there are some things to keep in mind. The storm brought sleet and freezing rain. With temperatures remaining low, that ice hasn't been able to melt, and it might not always be easy to see.
They're just trying to get off what they can, putting down, some abrasives to try to allow people to maintain some traction and trying to stay ahead of it, I think is what they were trying to do. They're ultimately out there chasing it, trying to get it to a dry condition.
Officials also recommend taking it slow and giving other drivers plenty of room. KDOT pre-treated roads in Kansas with a salt mixture, and officials there say the roads in Kansas are back to normal. Even still, they warn there could be some slick spots, so always keep an eye out.
So they've been out treating and clearing, and mostly it's the granular salt and salt brine, and that helps get the ice all melted. And we do use some beet juice in some locations, and that works a little better at lower temperatures.
For more information on road conditions, you can go to our website at koamnewsnow.com. It's 5:07.
One more day and night of the abnormally cold weather here at the end of February. Our temperatures as low as 5 degrees right now in Neodesha. We've yet to have anybody hit the 20-degree mark, clinging to 18s in Miami and in Grove. North wind all day long, gonna keep it rather chilly. At least it's only 5 to 10 miles per hour. Sunshine later on and highs around 30 degrees. So like Tanya said, we're not gonna get much of a melt here. Got some clouds that'll kick in the early nighttime hours. Clouds are gonna kind of come and go all day long. Give you an idea here on Future Track about how they kind of move in, move out, move in, move out. But fact of the matter is, by the time we get to the weekend, we have started a warming trend that'll finish off February in fine fashion and actually begin March in a little bit of a warm fashion with some 60s there on the far right-hand side.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, MSSU Lady Lions play Washburn in basketball. We'll have how the game played out. Plus, Netflix releases a new TV show that's a spin-off of a beloved History Channel TV show. We're going to have what it is, why Tanya's excited, and what it could mean for the other fans of the show Vikings. And we all want to put aside household chores. We tell ourselves we'll do them tomorrow. Well, you'll want to start doing your chores after you hear how good it is for your health. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Missouri Southern Lions just 3 days away and 2 games away from finishing up the regular season. Both games on the road. It begins with a trip to Topeka to face Washburn. On the women's side, Southern enters tonight a 13-game win streak. Midway through the fourth, Amaya Johns knocks down the step back from mid-range. Lions go up 7. Now the lead's just 5. We've got 10 seconds to go. Abby Oliver gets by the defense and finishes. We got a 1-possession game as Washburn is forced to foul. Haley Grant, she knocks down both free throws to seal it, and Lacey Stokes leads the way with 25 points. She also had 6 boards. Maddie Stokes, 8 points, 7 rebounds. 14 straight wins from Missouri Southern as they win in Topeka, 55-50. On the men's side, Southern trying to split the season series with the Ichabods. Fell by 10 points in Joplin, but that was back in January. R.J. Smith gets the Lions on the board first. Long 2-point jumper. He'll get another one about a minute later. Smith off the dribble. He had 16 last night for Missouri Southern. Avery Taggart led the Lions with 26, his 3rd straight 20-point game. Here comes 2 of those. But at the end, it is Washburn pulling away as the Ichabods win it 81-69. Regular season is over, so now it's playoff time for Missouri high school basketball. District tournaments begin this week. Carl Junction girls, number 1 seed in the Class 5 District 6 bracket after going 20-7 in the regular season. They'll open the playoffs on Saturday, get to face Hillcrest. Host school will be Willard. Bulldogs aiming for their 7th straight district championship. Now they know they've got a target on their back from recent playoff success and say it's a challenge that they're ready for.
We can score in multiple ways, and we have 2 or 3 really good scores. We have been rebounding really well right now. That's a piece that I think other teams are going to look at and think, hey, we need to get them off the boards. A lot of that's due to Kylie Scott and Anna Birch have done a tremendous job.
I'm sure teams are wanting to end our tradition of winning districts. I think it definitely puts a target on us.
Yesterday was the final day of the Kansas Girls High School Wrestling State Championship. Columbus Titans finished 3rd as a team. Addie Saporito leading the way as Saporito took 3rd place in the 109-pound bracket. 2nd straight year, she's finished 3rd at state. Brooklyn Lema placed 4th in the 138-pound bracket for the Titans. Jalen Rodriguez, she was 6th at 143 in all. We had 11 girls place at state. 7 of those in the top 5. You can check out a full list of state placers on our sports page at KOAMNewsNow.com. Finally, weather's still kind of playing with us sports-wise. Friday's MIAA baseball conference opener between Pitt State and Missouri Southern. We had to push that back a few days. 2 teams will now play a doubleheader on Sunday. It's going to be much warmer. Final game of the 3-game series will then take place on Monday. Game 1 of Sunday's doubleheader. First pitch, 1 o'clock. Monday's finale, it's going to begin at 3. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, world leaders react to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and a check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Just pushing past 5:17 on this Friday morning, and the nice thing is we've been able to dispatch of our precipitation. That means our road conditions doing much, much better than what we've had past couple of days. As a matter of fact, we can take a live look down and some tower cams. Here we are in Arkansas. Not a whole lot of traffic out, but I tell you what, you can tell there's no longer that fine sheen of black ice all over the highway. So don't forget, your side roads they're still going to be problematic, but as we go through our Department of Transportation pages, we are seeing our road conditions get better and better, and certainly by the time we get to the weekend, should be smooth sailing, and we'll finally get some warmth as well, because we're not going to have any of that today. As low as 5 degrees right now in Neodesha. Our highs are 18 in Miami and in Grove. Let's go 13 in both Joplin and in Carthage as the cold front still enveloping most of the Midwest right there, single digits up to our north, and even as you push down just below the blue color contour, only Little Rock sits at the freezing mark. Now factor in the north breeze that we have. We've got 1 negative up there in Yates Center. Everybody else anywhere from about 2 to 5 degrees is what it feels like. So remember, exposed skin, that can be a problem as far as hypothermia and frostbite when you walk outside. The majority of the storm system now pushing off to the east. They've got a big one right here. That's a whole bunch of snow that's pushed over the Great Lakes through the northeast and then eventually ends up in thunderstorm activity. Our temperature is still going to stay below freezing today. We'll only get up into the high 20s, low 30s, but by the time we get to the weekend, we will have a little light at the end of the tunnel. Number 1, some weekend sunshine. Number 2, be up around that 40-degree mark, not only for Saturday, but Sunday as well. And then we keep on warming up to the point where we will have temperatures that will be close to let's say 60s there to start our weekend. Hit this and it just goes, it's like my remote's ready for the weekend, evidently. The remote's the weather computer. There we go. All right, anyway, 60s there by the time we get to the beginning of March. It's going to be a great beginning of, and really not a bad end of February either. All right, let's talk about the KOM News Now Insta Poll and our something to talk about this morning. Legendary Vikings coming back to life is a new spin-off series on Netflix. The talented Ashley Dvorkin with the details.
Vikings are preparing for an invasion.
A new era of warriors rise in the Netflix historical drama Vikings Valhalla.
We have incredible, very captivating characters who are in this world of constant change.
The tumultuousness of the Viking world, of Christianity, paganism, of England.
One of the most exciting periods of history, certainly in terms of the English historical period of 1016 to 1066. There's huge upheaval in terms of who's running the place.
The show is a spin-off and set 100 years after the events of the History Channel's popular series Vikings.
It's a completely different time in history. It's the next book. We certainly pay homage to the original series, but this is very much a show unto its own.
All new, exciting Viking characters that were, real-life historical figures.
It remains historically authentic to the adventures of some of the most famous Vikings who ever lived, but creator Jeb Stewart took liberties with the Norsemen's timeline.
We're putting characters together in a space that were actually maybe decades apart, but he is taking events and characters and making his own narrative, own story out of that material.
It's a real Viking world, and it's drawing upon moments from sagas. And as a result, it's a really interesting alchemy to throw together these Viking legends and play with some of their origin stories.
You are Vikings! The new saga of the Scandinavian warriors arrives to Netflix Friday. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
Now that I have the historical context for that, it is actually not Vikings playing golf at Valhalla in Louisville, Kentucky. Jack Nicklaus design course. Our something to talk about this morning, what 2022 TV show are you excited for? Gave you a number of possibilities there. You can let us know by going straight to the poll, komnewsnow.com/vote, or connect to us via our Facebook page. Health Watch is next.
Topping Health Watch this morning, here's another reason to get those household chores done today. It could help lower your heart disease risk. That's according to a new study in the Journal of the American Heart Association. Mary Maloney has a closer look at why small daily movements can have a big impact.
Want to boost your heart health? Running marathons or doing intense workouts aren't the only way. Simple household chores may be all you need.
Our study shows that just about any movement counts.
Steve Nguyen is the lead author of a new study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association. A team of researchers at UC San Diego measured the physical activity of more than 5,000 American women between the ages of 63 and 97 and discovered doing chores like washing dishes, vacuuming, and cooking lowered their heart disease risk.
Any housework that we do, working in the kitchen, gardening, sort of all sorts of daily living activities.
The study found women who spent engaged in what they call daily life movement for at least 4 hours had a 43% lower risk of developing either cardiovascular disease or coronary heart disease, which includes heart attacks. They also had a 30% lower risk of stroke and a 62% lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. Researchers say the study could change how healthcare providers and caregivers discuss physical activity with patients.
Our hearts and cardiovascular systems do not particularly distinguish whether we're getting our movement through walking or running or through daily life movement.
Researchers say people of all ages could see a similar benefit.
We have no reason to think that there would not be benefit. We would just like to replicate our findings.
Well, researchers say this study builds on previous research showing that light physical activity does have health benefits. Owning a pet might be good for your brain. New research suggests long-term pet ownership can slow mental decline in older adults. According to the study, people with pets scored better on cognitive tests over the course of 6 years, showing less cognitive decline. Scientists suggest this slower decline could be due to the potential stress-busting effects of pets. or the increased physical activity which often comes with pets. The study is scheduled to be presented at the American Academy of Neurology's upcoming annual meeting. Well, a new study sheds light on the staggering mortality from COVID-19 worldwide. Globally, it's estimated that at least 5.2 million children have lost a parent, grandparent, or caregiver to the pandemic. The study published in The Lancet Child and Adolescent Health Thursday reviewed mortality data from 21 countries. Because the study ended in October of 2021, the authors believe their initial estimate is actually low. Applying the same modeling through last month, they believe 6.7 million kids have lost a parent or caregiver due to COVID-19. As a result, they believe support for orphan children needs to be part of every country's COVID-19 recovery plan moving forward. Researchers in the UK found eating less meat can reduce cancer risk. A team of researchers at Oxford University analyzed the diets of more than 472,000 people over 11 years. Half of the participants ate red meat or poultry more than 5 times a week. But the study found people who ate less meat or were vegetarian had an overall risk of developing all types of cancer. Researchers note vegetarians and those who ate less meat were younger, more likely to have never smoked, consumed less alcohol. And they were also more likely to have a college or university degree. Study is published in Thursday's BMC Medicine Journal. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Dangerously cold out there this morning. Wind chills as low as -1. Everything temperature-wise between about 5 and 18. Warming up as we head into the weekend. We'll break down the 7-day forecast right after this.
Head-on crash injures 2 people due to dangerous road conditions.
Waiting on the warm-up, and eventually, by the time we get to the weekend, the melt will be underway. But right now, wind chills in the negatives, the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And shelters see strain due to low temperatures in the 4 states.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's go to the Skywatch Weather Center with Michael Hayslip.
At least we're not looking down to the southwest seeing what freezing precipitation is headed our way on this Friday. We're done with the snow, the freezing rain, the sleet, and the whole 9. Now we just need a little bit of a warm up to begin our melt. Unfortunately, it's going to take a little bit as single digits persist throughout southeast Kansas. Joplin sits at 13 along with Carthage. Let's roll 8 in Fort Scott and Nevada and 18 our high point in Miami and in Grove. Factor in the north wind. We've seen our wind chills actually dip now down to -2 in Yates Center, and we'll see some additional negatives on the board here before the morning's over. Weather trend for today does feed us sunshine, but highs only around 30 degrees, stopping just short of the 32-degree mark. You'll notice we have a nice dry air mass over us. Even the cloud cover is kicked off to the east right there. So a little bit of a melt will begin here, especially on elevated surfaces once that sun gets it. Roads are looking much better as well. And then as we work in overnight, clouds are going to kind of come and go. And you know, the cloud cover overnight, that can be a key factor into actually grabbing some of that sunlight that we get during the day and holding it in for our next day. And that's actually what's going to happen, because on Saturday, we'll get a nice little bump up here around 40 degrees. After that, we just keep on warming up as we close out February and head into March, up around the high 50s there on Monday, and then anywhere from 50 to 60 for the middle of next week. So we got through the precip, now we just got to make it through the cold temps.
Yeah, we can make it through this weekend and ready for that
Yeah.
warm-up. All right, thanks, Michael. Authorities say slick road conditions were the cause of a head-on crash last night. Just after 6:30 p.m., Carl Junction Fire, Met's ambulance, and Jasper County Sheriff's deputies responded to a head-on crash just south of the Turkey Creek Bridge at Schifferdecker and Peace Church. According to an off-duty firefighter at the scene, road conditions were very slick. The crash involved a pickup truck and an SUV. Both people involved were transported with non-life-threatening injuries. Joplin Police Department is warning drivers to be aware of the black ice resulting from freezing drizzle. Roads can look clear but have a glaze of ice that drivers may not see, making conditions more dangerous than they appear. Of course, this is a developing story, so please follow us on KOAMNewsNow.com for continuing coverage. With the cold temperatures we've experienced across the region, staying outside is not an option, but for those with nowhere else to go, it can seem like their only option. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky spoke with area shelters about continuing their services to those in need amid this weather.
Temperatures remain low across the region. While it's unpleasant for some, it can be life or death for those with nowhere else to go.
Yeah, I think a big piece of that is to understand during temperatures like this, yeah, it is unsafe.
Local shelters like Watered Gardens have seen their beds fill up the past few days due to the cold temps. Other shelters like Souls Harbor share the same observation.
We have been seeing a lot more people come in, so we've had a lot more company.
But it remains manageable. The issues come from ensuring they can accommodate everyone, especially with fewer volunteers.
It has been a little harder with the snow and the ice. It takes the little brave at heart to be able to get them in here to do it. But yeah, it's been a little harder.
Well, sometimes the challenges really are just trying to accommodate everyone and make sure everyone's fed and warm and you know, oftentimes during this time we might have a few less volunteers because the roads are slick and people can't get out, but that's understandable. But fortunately, I feel like we have a good set up pretty well to keep things moving no matter what.
Both shelters say they could always use more items like socks, gloves, and hats.
And everybody has a lot of needs right now. Hats, scarves, gloves really in particular. We're now out of those. We're down to about 8 or 10 coats now, so we're needing some coats as well.
And although capacity is a concern, both say they have ways to get shelter to anyone who needs it.
Now we have added on more hours for our warming station.
It does get crowded sometimes, but at night there's a couple more warming centers that open up around the community, and so that kind of helps spread out or give people options and spread out.
In Joplin, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
For more information on how to donate to area shelters, you can go onto our website at koamnewsnow.com. Republicans in the Kansas legislature moved to block local bans, restrictions, or taxes on plastic bags or other packaging. State Senate voted for a bill that would strip cities and counties of their power to regulate or tax bags, cups, bottles, or other packaging. The measure would cover not only plastic, but cloth, paper, cardboard, aluminum, glass, or foamed plastic, such as styrofoam. The bill goes next to the House. Pitt State hosts a workshop to help scientists gain insight into problems faced by farmers that can be addressed through advances in plastics and polymers. It was led by the K-State County Extension Service agents as well as representatives from Virginia Tech and Arizona State. While the focus was on plastics and polymers, current events crept into conversations, including how events in Ukraine could impact farmers here in the 4 states.
Ukraine is a big exporter in wheat, and so that in itself kind of makes our wheat that we have here at home maybe look a little more attractive, because people are going to need wheat around the world, and if they can't get it from Ukraine and some of these other places, then they'll look to us.
The workshop continues into today and will conclude with an event at Block 22. Of course, here on the morning show, we had some representatives from farms come on to talk about the program and its benefits as well. You can find that interview on our website, koamnewsnow.com.
That was with Kansas Tech Center.
Yeah.
Yeah, Polymer Research Center. All right, here's where we stand temperature-wise. Bundle up out there. Multi-layers today. Try to avoid any prolonged exposure, because still talking dangerously low temps that could result in frostbite and hypothermia. Yes, it is that cold. 13 degrees right now in Joplin and in Carthage. Wind chills, we're down easy. We're single digits everywhere. We're done with our snow and our freezing rain. We'll call that a winter. It'd just be nice if we got a little bit of a warm up. That will begin to hit on Saturday. Won't quite make it to the freezing point today. That'll begin on Saturday afternoon up into the 40s. And then we'll finish off the weekend in fine fashion. Sunny skies and 50s on Sunday.
Well, this morning we are discussing shows in 2022. And today Netflix releases a spin-off to the show Vikings. Now, Vikings was a popular History Channel show. The new one, of course, on Netflix, Vikings Valhalla. While the show may share a name with its predecessor, the show in itself is set 100 years after the original. It takes the original material and makes it its own. bringing in some new legendary characters. This brings up our something to talk about. What 2022 TV show are you excited for? Pretty sure, Michael, you know I'm excited for Vikings.
We'll kind of give you a vote for Vikings until you
I've
can
already
log on.
started Inventing Anna, though. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I hate to tell you this, now that I look at our list, Vikings isn't even on our list.
It's not. It would have to be other.
It'd be in the other category. That's where 90% of the votes fall right now. Peacemaker gets 10% of the votes.
I haven't had a chance to get into Bridgerton. I would like to. But yeah, if you haven't started Inventing Anna, it's great, by the way.
Or just go back and watch Queen's Gambit for the 8th time. It's cool. It's cool.
There's so much good content out there. It's hard to decide what to watch next. No time in the day. All right, that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, the officers involved with the death of George Floyd see their day in court. Plus, it's day 2 of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We'll have the latest on how Ukraine is doing in this horrible time. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping World Watch, world leaders are condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and pro-Ukrainian protests are growing across the globe. Tina Kraus reports from London.
Stop war! From Tokyo to Beirut,
Russia, go home!
To London.
I want all people around the world to stop Putin.
There's strong support for Ukraine.
This is so horrifying and shocking and appalling.
Even among Russians like Tatiana Ruzak, who lives in the UK with her 3 children.
There's a slight hint of shame in all of this because this is my country who is starting the aggressive invading war.
You feel guilty?
Of course I feel guilty. Everyone, I think, feels the same.
Le président Poutine n'a pas seulement attaqué l'Ukraine.
One world leader after another is denouncing Russia's invasion.
This hideous and barbaric venture of Vladimir Putin must end in failure.
European leaders are promising to hammer Putin with tough sanctions.
It is President Putin who is bringing war back to Europe.
For Ukrainian Katerina Volovic, the war is personal. Her family is in the line of fire.
Of course, it's horrible. I'm stressed, I'm nervous about my parents, and I'm really afraid that a lot of people die.
Others are in disbelief.
It's shocking. It's just, sorry.
I see that you're tearing up. It's quite emotional.
Yeah.
Protesters know these signs won't stop the war, but they hope someone listening will. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
Russia claims China gave its backing for the military attack on Ukraine. China has called on all sides to exercise restraint to prevent the situation from getting out of hand. Actor Sean Penn is working on a documentary in Ukraine as Russia begins its invasion. He's met with President Volodymyr Zelensky and attended press conferences. The office of the president says Penn came to Kyiv to tell the world the truth about what's happening. Variety reports Penn is filming a documentary on the Russian invasion with Vice Studios. Vice Media Group confirmed the project but would not say if Penn was involved. Now, back in November, the actor spent time in Ukraine meeting with troops as tensions rose with Russia. Today marks the second day of war after Russia invaded Ukraine, the largest war in Europe since World War II. And explosions were heard in Kyiv in the early hours today. More than 130 Ukrainians have been killed so far, hundreds more injured. But the death toll is expected to sharply rise. Skylar Henry reports from Capitol Hill on today's developments.
Blasts lit up the night sky just after sunset in Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine. These tanks are evidence of the fierce fighting from the night before, as Russia sent in troops from 3 sides and launched more than 100 airstrikes. This video was captured when a Russian fighter jet flew overhead.
It's really terrible. I got up at 5 o'clock and I listen a lot of bomb.
You'll spend the night underground with hundreds of others in a subway station.
It will be scary to stay at home at night. It will be dark.
Also in eastern Ukraine, this apartment building was bombed. killing at least one and injuring 15 others.
Я запитав сьогодні.
In an early morning address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky ordered a full military mobilization and urged his people to stay calm. He said he has information he's the #1 target for Russian forces, but vowed to remain in Kyiv. Ukraine also reported losing control of the Chernobyl nuclear plant after a tough battle. The White House says it's outraged about reports that Russian troops are holding the staff there hostage. Earlier, President Biden announced more sanctions against Russian banks and oligarchs and restrictions on high-tech exports.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war. And now he and his country will bear the consequences.
The president also sent 7,000 additional troops to Germany. Here on Capitol Hill, members of Congress were given an unclassified briefing Thursday afternoon.
I have some advice. Ratchet the sanctions all the way up.
Meanwhile, Ukrainians streamed out of cities desperate to escape. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Martial law was declared in Ukraine, and there is an overnight curfew. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The winter storm may be on its way out, but roads can still be dangerous. Road crews in Missouri are working to keep drivers safe, but there are some things to keep in mind. The storm brought sleet and freezing rain, with temperatures remaining low. That ice hasn't been able to melt, and it might not always be easy to see. KDOT pre-treated the roads in Kansas with a salt mixture, and officials say the roads in Kansas are now back to normal. Even still, they warn there could be slick spots, so always keep an eye out. Missouri lawmakers pass a stopgap budget plan that again seeks to strip any public funding from Planned Parenthood while paying for Medicaid expansion and pumping money to schools. The budget plan is primarily needed to dole out roughly $1.7 billion in federal funding directly to schools before the end of the state fiscal year in June. But Republicans also added a provision aimed at blocking public funding for Planned Parenthood centers, including clinics that do not provide abortions. Republicans in the Kansas legislature moved to block local bans, restrictions, or taxes on plastic bags or other packaging. The state Senate voted for a bill that would strip cities and counties of their power to regulate or tax bags, cups, bottles, or other packaging. The measure would cover not only plastic, but cloth, paper, cardboard, aluminum, glass, or foamed plastic such as styrofoam. The bill goes next to the House. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
It is cold out there. At least it's dry, but once again, to reiterate what Tanya said, not going to see much of a melt on our roadways with temperatures that are as low as single digits right now. Wind chills, got some negatives even. As far as what we're going to have for the course of our Friday into the weekend, not looking too bad as far as staying dry. Nice dry air mass that's coming at us from the west right here. So the sunny skies will eventually begin to melt, now say tomorrow all the way through Sunday. Then we should be good to go after that. Here's the Skywatch Storm Tracker. Clouds are going to kind of come and go all day long. As far as what we're looking at nationally, the big storm system has pushed its way off to the east of the Mississippi. They're going to get a fair amount of rain and freezing rain and snow. How does that sound familiar? All the way through the weekend. But for us, how about sitting back and enjoying back-to-back days of Saturday and Sunday weather that'll make for a great four-state weekend. And then as we close out February and get ready for March, a little warmth is going to be up in the air. That'll be nice for a change, as we'll be close to the 60s on Monday. And then start off the new month in the mid-50s, and then back into the 60s with very mild, if not abnormally warm temperatures for Wednesday and Thursday. Still a smattering of closings as far as schools, organizations, businesses, and activities, and you can find that complete list on KOAMNewsNow.com. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Well, jurors reached a verdict in the month-long federal civil rights trial of 3 former Minneapolis police officers involved in George Floyd's killing in May of 2020. 2 held Floyd down while the 3rd kept bystanders away. All 3 pleaded not guilty and were tried together in a case that came down to a legal definition that courts have grappled with for years. Naomi Reckham has more.
After less than 2 days of deliberation, a jury in Minneapolis convicted 3 former Minneapolis police officers of violating George Floyd's civil rights. The fired officers, J. Alexander King, Thomas Lane, and Tu Tao, were found guilty on all charges.
This is just accountability. It can never be justice because I can never get George back.
All 3 were charged with depriving Floyd of his right to medical care, while Derek Chauvin pressed his knee into Floyd's neck for 9.5 minutes. King and Tao were also charged with failing to intervene to stop Chauvin. Prosecutors said the defendants chose to do nothing, and in doing so caused Floyd's death. The defense argued the men deferred to Chauvin as the senior officer and cast blame on inadequate training policies of the Minneapolis Police Department. All 3 ex-officers testified in their defense. The case came down to the legal concept of willfulness, the intent to commit crimes, and the prior knowledge that the action is against the law. The 3 former officers face another trial in June on state charges of aiding and abetting murder and manslaughter. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
Derek Chauvin pleaded guilty in the federal case months after he was convicted of murder and manslaughter in a state trial. He's been imprisoned since last April. We'll be right back.
Just past 5:57, our high temperatures taking us just below the 50-degree mark for the February average, because obviously the past 3 days have just been frigid. At least we're dry today. However, still going to be cold. 30 degrees as high as we're going to get. Good looking weekend though. 40 and 50 on Saturday and Sunday. Break down future track right after this.
Vote.
Coming up, icy road conditions lead to a dangerous head-on crash.
Turn our attention from the freezing precipitation to brutally cold weather. Luckily, it'll be slightly warmer by the time we get to the weekend, the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a look at how area shelters try to deal with an increase of people during dangerously cold weather.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first let's focus on those low temperatures with Michael Hayslip.
Topped out at 23 yesterday, back down to single digits here this morning. We are going to stop short of breaking any records. We'd have to get down to 0 at Joplin Regional Airport. That dates back to 1965. We'd have to get as low as 2 degrees at Marchant Johnson Airport in Chanute. That dates back to 2003. Right now, we're sitting at 11 in Chanute and 12 in Joplin. So far cry from the record. But at this point in time, like I say, when it gets this cold, what's the difference as far as when you step outside between whether it be 5 in Neodesha or 12 in Carthage? 16 in Miami. We've seen a drop in a trio of 9s running from Iola, Fort Scott. And in Nevada, a little north wind has now knocked Iola into the negatives as well. A whole bunch of single-digit wind chills is what it feels like to your body when you walk outside. Weather trend going to lift us up into the 30s. At least we get some sunshine today as the cloud covers moved out to the east. No worries about any precipitation that's going to come nip us down from the southwest as it has for the past couple of days. So while we may not get much of a melt, at least we'll be on the dry side. Roads are continuing to look better thanks in part to the great work by our road crews. Really going to be those side streets and those country and county roads that are going to be problematic. And speaking of problematic, look at this mess that this thing's going to cause for the East Coast over the weekend. But you can tell for us, a whole bunch of high pressure. Also, too, we have a smattering of closings still going on, including Missouri Southern, Joplin R8 going virtual on this Friday. You can find that complete list of closings at KOAMnewsnow.com and click on our closings or our weather tab. 7-day forecast. Great looking weekend. Let's just get through today. Be careful. Exposed skin, frostbite, hypothermia. Those are serious concerns when we talk about it being this cold in the morning. But after that, 40 on Saturday, 50 on Sunday.
All right, well, got a lot to talk about with the warm-up, so.
Oh, we've had a lot to talk about here past 48 hours weather-wise. Let's just sit back. Let's sit back and talk about sunshine that's on the way.
I like that. All right, thanks, Michael. Authorities say slick road conditions were the cause of a head-on crash last night just after 6:30 p.m. Carl Junction Fire, Met's ambulance, and the Jasper County Sheriff's deputies responded to a head-on crash just south of the Turkey Creek Bridge at Schifferdecker and Peace Church. According to an off-duty firefighter at the scene, road conditions were very slick. The crash involved a pickup truck and an SUV. Both people involved were transported with non-life-threatening injuries. Joplin Police Department is warning drivers to be aware of black ice resulting from freezing drizzle. Roads can look clear, but have a glaze of ice that drivers may not see, making conditions more dangerous than they appear. This is a developing story, so make sure you follow KOAMNewsNow.com for continuing coverage and road conditions. Well, that was a reminder that while winter storms may be on the way out, roads can still be dangerous. Road crews in Missouri are working to keep drivers safe, but there are some things to keep in mind. This storm brought sleet and freezing rain, and with temperatures remaining low, that ice hasn't been able to melt. And as we mentioned, might not always be easy to see.
They're just trying to get off what they can, putting down, some abrasives to try to allow people to maintain some traction and trying to stay ahead of it. I think is what they were trying to do. They're ultimately out there chasing it, trying to get it to a dry condition.
Officials also recommend taking it slow and giving other drivers plenty of room. Freezing temps across the region have caused strain for everyone, but especially those with nowhere else to go. Area shelters like Souls Harbor and Watered Gardens both say they've seen an increase in people signing up for shelter. At Watered Gardens, they say their beds have been full every night since temperatures dropped. Some challenges to accommodate the needs of everyone have come up as a result.
Make sure everyone's fed and warm and oftentimes during this time we might have a few less volunteers because the roads are slick and people can't get out, but that's understandable. But fortunately, I feel like we have a good setup pretty well to keep things moving no matter what.
Later in the show, we'll hear more from Watered Gardens as well as Souls Harbor to hear how they're working to help everyone who's seeking shelter. Ukraine's capital city was under fire as day 2 of the Russian invasion gets underway. Bradley Blackburn is outside UN headquarters in New York with more.
Russian forces appear to be converging on Kyiv. Air raid sirens sounded in the Ukrainian capital this morning, followed by reports of explosions across the city. Residents were told to take shelter as world leaders braced for Kyiv to fall.
This is the opening salvo of a massive invasion, and we see this continuing and threatening Kyiv and threatening other major cities in Ukraine.
While it's difficult to verify casualty numbers, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said 137 Ukrainians were killed during the first day of the invasion, and he insists civilians are being targeted. Russian leader Vladimir Putin pressed ahead with the offensive despite widespread condemnation and growing economic sanctions. Here at the United Nations, they've now earmarked $20 million for humanitarian efforts in Ukraine, and diplomats are calling for an immediate end to the hostilities.
I repeat my appeal from last night to President Putin. Stop the military operation. Bring the troops back to Russia.
President Biden blamed Russia for launching what he called a war without cause.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war. And now he and his country will bear the consequences.
The White House says 80% of Russia's banking assets are now subject to sanctions. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
This morning, President Biden will meet virtually with other NATO leaders to discuss the situation in Ukraine and what other measures the U.S. and allies could take. On this date back in 1964, 22-year-old Cassius Clay shocks the sports world with a 7th-round TKO of defending heavyweight champ Sonny Liston. The feared Liston stood as an 8-1 favorite against the upstart Clay. Clay predicted victory over Liston, boasting he would float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Needing no help to back up his confidence, Liston failed to answer the 7th-round bell after complaining of a shoulder injury, and new heavyweight champion was crowned. Now, less than a month later, following the news he was joining the Nation of Islam, Clay announced he was changing his name to none other than Muhammad Ali. Ali would go on to be recognized as one of the greatest athletes of the 20th century.
The big ugly bear.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
That's Sonny Liston. That's what Ali called him. Mm-hmm. Great pre-fight press conference where talks about how bears in a zoo smell better than Sonny Liston. How long did that fight go? You know, Ron?
7 rounds.
He predicted 8. Yeah, I know. I remember the list of us going 8. I don't actually know if he called it, if it hit in 8.
Going to be positive.
Folks, if you have a chance this morning, you can read about the Battle of Snake Island.
There you go.
Yeah. It's got nothing to do with Cassius Clay. It's got everything to do with Ukraine and Russia. Yeah, this is going to be a story that comes out here relatively soon. 7-day forecast, 30 degrees, sunny skies today. We are going to be on the dry side, albeit the cold side. We do not have any watches, warnings, or advisories in effect, so we'll call that a winter. Roads progressively getting better, but we really don't see the entire melt begin until Saturday. Remember, we do have a smattering of closings, and you can find that complete list running there on the bottom of your screen, and you can also go to koamnewsnow.com.
That's a look at this morning's top stories in weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, the Boy Scouts find a new identity with some older recruits. Plus, this Saturday marks 10 years since the murder of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. We're going to look back on how the shooting sparked a turning point for many Americans. And more people are taking a do-it-yourself approach to monitoring their own health with the help of apps and at-home tests. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch this morning. This Saturday marks 10 years since Trayvon Martin was shot and killed in Florida by a man who claimed the unarmed teenager was acting suspiciously. The shooting was seen as a turning point for how Americans confront the deaths of young black men and women. Started as a movement of powerful mothers fighting for change. Skylar Henry has that story from Washington.
10 years later, Sabrina Fulton says time has not healed her wounds.
When you lose a child, it's a tragedy for you. You know, it's long time healing, it's long time grieving, and you just can't imagine just being complete anymore.
Her son, Trayvon Martin, was just 17 years old when he was killed in Sanford, Florida. The shooter, George Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch volunteer, confronted and shot the teenager, claiming self-defense. Zimmerman was ultimately acquitted, sparking both outrage and a renewed national conversation about race, with then-President Barack Obama weighing in.
You know, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon.
Fulton now stands with other mothers of the movement, women connected by tragedy, fighting racism and gun violence.
His smile would light up a room.
Georgia Congresswoman Lucy McBath joined that movement when her son was killed. 17-year-old Jordan Davis was at a Florida gas station with friends when Michael Dunn complained their music was too loud and then opened fire. The loss of her son launched McBath on her journey to elected office.
I can only imagine that you never expected that you would be in this position.
You are absolutely right. Every experience that I've had, whether it be good, bad, or ugly, has all really helped to prepare me for the work that I really believe that I'm called to do now.
Her son's killer is serving life in prison, and McBath is using her seat in the U.S. House of Representatives to fight for change.
We're still fighting for the freedom for our children and our family to live in this country unhinged with racial bias and discrimination.
She says it's now up to the families who've suffered loss to carry the mantle for civil rights, a struggle she says is still far from over. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
On Saturday, the CBS News streaming network and the Smithsonian Channel will debut an hour-long special, Trayvon Martin, 10 years later. Anchored by Gail King, the report also airs on BET on Monday at 7 p.m. Now, looking back at the killing of Trayvon Martin and how his death became a turning point in America. That's a look at today's top national story. We'll be right back.
6:17 on this Friday morning. For the past 2 days, we've concentrated so much on our travel conditions, and rightfully so, especially in the southern portion of the 4 states. That's down there at the Bentonville Exchange right there where 71 and 49 pretty much collide. And really for the past 2 days, even during our peak hours, there was nary a headlight out on the highway, so at least we're seeing a little morning traffic begin to move through there, an indicator how great our road crews did. And also too, this shot, brand new. We've only been using it for about a week to illustrate our weather conditions. Special shout out to our great director, Tim, for being able to put this together and give us an idea location-wise that we can compare when we talk about the live traffic. Regional temperatures, the cold front now pressing just about through central Arkansas, up to the upper plains, and even us still just mired in it though. We're talking about temperatures that for the past 3 days, 16, 23, 17. This is one thing Nick Kelly and I were marveling about, how we have just gone from one extreme to the other all month long. And of course, Mother Nature averages it out. High temperature for the month right now, 49 degrees, despite the fact that we've got wind chills that are hanging on to single digits about. These are actual temperatures, nobody even close to the 20-degree mark. Highest we've seen right now is 17 down in Grove. We've got 9 up in Fort Scott. Pittsburgh only sits at 8. With all that being said, and our roads getting a little bit better each and every day, we still do have a smattering of closings. You can find those at KOAMnewsnow.com. Of note, Missouri Southern State University closed for today. Joplin R8 going virtual. Now, we're going to stay dry today, and temperatures will eventually make it up into the 30s, so not a whole lot of it's going to be able to melt off the ground. That changes on Saturday and Sunday. We got 40s and 50s, and then as we wrap up February and get ready for March, ooh, a little warmth returning right there. Can't complain about that. Sunshine, 50s, if not 60s by the middle of next week. The Boy Scouts of America are looking for new recruits, but might be a little bit older than your average Boy Scout. Troop leaders in Reno, Nevada have started a new program, and that's where we pick up Ashley Grams. She has the details.
James Farragon has been part of the Scouts for most of his life.
54 years.
He donned his Sea Scout uniform and told me about the day he joined back in 1958.
I'm a Scout because my father was a Scout. He grew up in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, Troop 22. And when I came of age, he took me to a Cub Scout meeting.
And he stuck with it after all these years, hoping to pay it forward to the young Scouts. But he's not the only one. Julie Jones is a senior, and she started the Seniors in Scouting program after spending years scouting with her grandson.
And I thought, people are missing a valuable experience by being able to be with your grandson, or grandchild rather, and spending quality time with them.
And Julie says the program isn't just for active seniors. They have something for everyone.
I tell people, even if you're in a wheelchair, if you do a modicum amount of sewing, kids need their patches sewn on in a timely manner, and parents are really, really busy these days.
And you don't need to have a grandchild who's a Scout. Many others just need a mentor and a role model.
Just being with the kids and seeing what they accomplish is so important.
And it's an opportunity to stay involved. It's so easy to be isolated because your peers over time will pass away, and it's a way to get your hand back into a great youth organization and stay active.
And you can contact them at seniorsinscouting at gmail.com. Health Watch is next.
Topping Health Watch this morning, more and more people are using mobile apps and at-home tests to monitor their own health. Michael George takes a look at the pros and cons of the do-it-yourself health movement.
Dean has been diabetic for 16 years. He also hosts a Twitter community where diabetic patients share their experiences. For them, constantly keeping track of their blood sugar and insulin can be a matter of life and death.
It's when you have to start writing everything down for yourself, with everyone's busy schedules, it becomes unmanageable at a point.
But now Tom has help. He's using multiple apps to do things like monitor his diet, order new prescriptions, and manage his blood sugar.
I've just gone on now onto Libra. It will tell me my level instantly, rather than finger pricking the old-fashioned way.
There are now thousands of health apps and at-home tests people are using to monitor their health, for everything from asthma to weight loss to sleep apnea. A Carnegie Mellon University study finds diabetes patients who use apps have better health outcomes, fewer hospital visits, and lower medical costs. Dr. Natasha Bouillon is Regional Medical Director for One Medical. She says with medical personnel strained treating COVID patients, these apps allow doctors and nurses to monitor their patients' health without an office visit.
I really love when patients are engaged in their health and they're empowered by seeing their own health information.
But there is a downside. Patients can be overwhelmed with all this information.
The information should really be just interpreted in the context of a trusted primary care provider. For a lot of patients getting inundated with this information, they sometimes don't know what to do.
Tom's app automatically shares his blood sugar levels with his nurse.
I think it's amazing because it's doing everything kind of for you,
making managing his chronic illness just a little bit easier. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Some health apps have been criticized for collecting users' data. Experts say you should choose your own app in consultation with your doctor. A new study published in The Lancet details the tragic toll the COVID-19 pandemic is taking on children worldwide. Researchers say since March of 2020, at least 5 million children under the age of 18 have lost a parent or caregiver to the virus, putting them at increased risk of poverty, abuse, and mental illness. Doctors at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston have identified a link between migraines and pregnancy complications. They found a migraine diagnosis put pregnant women at higher risk of preterm births, high blood pressure, and preeclampsia, not gestational diabetes or low birth weight. And Chinese researchers may be on the brink of developing an anti-obesity drug. They found low doses of an anti-tumor drug derived from a Chinese tree significantly suppressed food intake and reduced body weight in obese mice. But its safety as a weight loss drug must still be determined. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Cold start. Nobody's even got to 20 degrees yet. We're only going to top out around 30, but at least we get sunshine and we stay on the dry side. More KOAM Morning News right after this.
Coming up, icy road conditions lead to a dangerous head-on crash.
As the February roller coaster rolls on, hey, that means we're about due for a rebound. We've got one headed into the weekend, the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And we'll look at how area shelters try to deal with an increase of people during dangerously cold weather.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a bit. But first, let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Do a little housekeeping here as far as our daily almanac goes on this February the 25th. We are not, Tanya, going to be able to set any record lows today. Let's call that an accomplishment, because at one point in time earlier this week we were looking at where we'd bottom out, and it's frigid outside, but at least we'll avoid 0, which is the record at Joplin Regional Airport dating back to 1965. Record low of 2 is in Chanute, dating back to 2003. Right now, Chanute's up at 11, and we see Joplin sitting at 12 degrees. But it's still frigid outside. Here's what it feels like. We've now got 2 communities that are down into the negatives in Yates Center and Iola. 3 degrees is what it feels like in Webb City and also in Chautauqua. Now, while the roads are getting better, we still have quite a few closings, and you can find that complete list at KOAMnewsnow.com, KOAMnewsnow.com. That includes Missouri Southern State University with campus closed and classes canceled. Joplin R8 going all virtual today on this Friday. Skywatch Storm Tracker. We are clear as can be. No worries about any precipitation. We will stay on the dry side. The freezing rain, sleet, and snow, all a thing of the past, as it's now moved on the east side of the Mississippi. They do have quite a mess right there that they're going to have to put up with going into the weekend. As you can tell, that's exactly what we ran into. This thing took off by the Great Lakes and then moved off to the east. As far as what we're going to have in the 4 states, only get around 30 degrees. At least we will get sunshine out of it. But by the time the weekend is over, then we start getting the snow and the ice off of the lawns. At least we'll have 40s on Saturday and 50s on Sunday. And then as we close out February and open up March, delightful temperatures back up into the high to mid 50s and then 60s middle of next week.
All right.
We may be able to push that, depending on how Sunday and Monday treat Joplin Regional Airport, we may be able to push that February average high back to the 50-degree mark.
I hope so. That would be nice.
That'd be something else to finish off the month. With everything that we've had this month, if we finish with an average high of 50 degrees, it's crazy.
And then let's shoot for 70 in March.
Oh, I'd love that.
That would be great.
75 and sunny for an entire month?
Yes, I like it. And it can rain while we're sleeping, because we need the rain.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad. Well, some people need the rain. I've been reminded. Other people don't need the rain.
There you go.
It depends. Are you getting ready to plant? Are you ranching? What are you doing?
How about Mother Nature selectively choose where the rain goes whenever it's needed?
Well, yes, that would be ideal. How come it's not raining in my backyard, Michael?
Right. All right, thanks, Michael. Authorities say slick road conditions were the cause of a head-on crash last night just after 6:30 p.m. Carl Junction Fire, Met's ambulance, and the Jasper County Sheriff's deputies responded to a head-on crash just south of the Turkey Creek Bridge at Schifferdecker and Peace Church. According to an off-duty firefighter at the scene, road conditions were very slick. The crash involved a pickup truck and an SUV. Both people involved were transported with non-life-threatening injuries. Joplin Police Department is warning drivers to be aware of black ice resulting from freezing drizzle. Roads can look clear but have a glaze of ice that drivers may not see, making conditions more dangerous than they appear. This is a developing story, so please follow us on KOAMnewsnow.com for continuing coverage. As we mentioned, even with the winter storms on the way out, our roads can still be dangerous. Road crews in Missouri are working to keep drivers safe, but there are some things to keep in mind. This storm brought sleet and freezing rain, and with temperatures remaining low, that ice hasn't been able to melt, and it may not always be easy to see.
They're just trying to get off what they can, putting down, some abrasives to try to allow people to maintain some traction, and trying to stay ahead of it. I think is what they were trying to do. They're ultimately out there chasing it, trying to get it to a dry condition.
Officials also recommend taking it slow and giving other drivers plenty of room. KDOT pre-treated the roads in Kansas with a salt mixture, and officials there say the roads in Kansas are back to normal. Even still, once again, they warn there could be some slick spots, so always keep an eye out.
So they've been out treating and clearing, and mostly it's the granular salt and salt brine, and that helps, get the ice all melted. And we do use some beet juice in some locations, and that works better, a little better at lower temperatures.
For more information on road conditions, go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Well, road conditions have been on everyone's minds, but that's not the only consideration when dealing with freezing weather. With the cold temps we've experienced across the region, staying outside is not an option. But for those with nowhere else to go, it can seem like their only option. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky spoke with area shelters about continuing their services to those in need amid this weather.
Temperatures remain low across the region. While it's unpleasant for some, it can be life or death for those with nowhere else to go.
Yeah, I think a big piece of that is to understand during temperatures like this, it is unsafe.
Local shelters like Watered Gardens have seen their beds fill up the past few days due to the cold temps. Other shelters like Souls Harbor share the same observation.
We have been seeing a lot more people come in, so we've had a lot more company.
But it remains manageable. The issues come from ensuring they can accommodate everyone, especially with fewer volunteers.
It has been a little harder with the snow and the ice. It takes the little brave at heart to be able to get them in here to do it. But yeah, it's been a little harder.
Well, sometimes the challenges really are just trying to accommodate everyone and make sure everyone's fed and warm and oftentimes during this time we might have a few less volunteers because the roads are slick and people can't get out, but that's understandable. But fortunately, I feel like we have a good setup pretty well to keep things moving no matter what.
Both shelters say they could always use more items like socks, gloves, and hats.
And everybody has a lot of needs right now. Hats, scarves, gloves really in particular. We're now out of those. We're down to about 8 or 10 coats now, so we're needing some coats as well.
And although capacity is a concern, both say they have ways to get shelter to anyone who needs it.
Now we have added on more hours for our warming station.
It does get crowded sometimes, but at night there's a couple more warming centers that open up around the community, and so that kind of helps kind of spread out or give people options and spread out.
In Joplin, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
For more information on how to donate to area shelters, you can go to our website at koamnewsnow.com. Well, George Harrison of the Beatles was born on this date in 1943. Harrison, the band's lead guitarist, was known as the Quiet Beatle and was oftentimes overshadowed by his bandmates John Lennon and Paul McCartney. But his influence on the group and rock music in general was profound. Harrison's use of the sitar on the 1965 track Norwegian Wood introduced the instrument to the Western pop culture, along with other Harrison innovations such as the backward guitar solo on I'm Only Sleeping. It became a defining feature of psychedelic rock. Harrison went on to a successful solo career and made his name as a frequent collaborator, most notably with the supergroup the Traveling Wilburys. Harrison passed away.
They were awesome.
2001.
Traveling Wilburys were awesome. George Harrison was the first Beatle to have a number one single after the Beatles broke up. While he wasn't the first one with a number 1 album, that would be Lennon and McCartney. It was Harrison that had the first single that went number 1.
Pretty cool.
Concert in Bangladesh, if you've never heard the entire album.
Nice. All right, that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, gas prices see record levels in some parts of the country after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Plus, your favorite streaming services have some new series coming out. We want to know which one you're looking forward to. We let you weigh in, and we'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, stocks rebounded Thursday after new economic sanctions were imposed on Russia. The Dow ultimately closed 92 points higher yesterday. The Nasdaq rallied 436 and the S&P 500 gained 63. Gas prices are hitting record levels in parts of California amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The average price of a gallon of regular was $4.82 in Los Angeles County on Thursday, a new record. Many stations had prices well over $5 a gallon. Orange County also saw a stark increase to $4.80. That's $1.13 higher than this time last year. Russia, which accounts for 12% of the world's oil supply, launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine on Wednesday, triggering volatility across global markets, already up 40% from a year ago. Analysts say oil and gas prices are likely to head even higher. Now, oil and gas aren't the only commodities that could be squeezed by the conflict overseas. Nearly a quarter of the world's wheat is grown in Ukraine and Russia. Two nations are also major exporters of corn and barley. Sanctions on Russia have not targeted its farms or food supply, but experts say the military operation could prevent grains from being harvested or shipped to other markets. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, talking about upcoming television shows in 2022 as Netflix released a spinoff to the show, Vikings. Now, Vikings is a personal favorite of one Tanya Bach and a popular History Channel show. Trust me, I know all about it. I used to get weekly recaps of the show from her. Now, the show may share a name with its predecessor. The show in itself is set 100 years after the original show, and the new Vikings takes the original material, makes it its own. Our Something to Talk About, specifically if there's a show coming out this year that you are excited about, and right now 67% say you're excited about something, it just wasn't specifically on our list. Those of you that did have something on the list, 15% said Bridgerton, followed by 10% with Peacemaker. Appreciate everybody's engagement each and every morning. We're going to come back, celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, but not before we check in with Nate, who's in New York.
I'm Nate Burleson. Coming up on CBS Mornings, Team USA bobsledder Alana Myers-Taylor talks with us about becoming the most decorated black athlete in Winter Olympic sports history and how she did it all while being a new mother recovering from COVID. That's coming up on CBS Mornings.
We take this time to honor today's fourth-state hero, Private First Class Kenneth Myers Sr. of Galena, Kansas. Member of the U.S. Army, Myers fought in the European theater in World War II with the 20th Armored Division. He was decorated for rifle marksmanship and received the Harry S. Truman Presidential Citation for the Battle of Munich. We thank you, Kenneth Myers Sr., today's four-state hero.
The birthday list begins. Check out this getup that Amelia Charles has on. That is absolutely beautiful right there. My goodness, that purple just pops. Amelia, a very happy birthday in Carthage.
All right, we got Allie Frazier turning 6 years old this year in Carterville. Happy birthday, Allie.
I like that plaid too. Ansley Hale is celebrating her 6th birthday. Ansley is a kindergartner at Park Elementary in Columbus. And so if you're in class or you see Ansley out in the halls today, make sure you wish her a very happy 6th birthday.
Oakland Corwin celebrating birthday number 8 this year. Hope it's a great one, Oakland in Thayer.
Run out to West Mineral, and that's where we find Josiah Overman. He's always looking for a soccer pitch so he can take part. Josiah, a very happy birthday to you, my man.
All right. And Jameson Walker, turning 8 years old as well. Got a little note here. He's a second
grader.
grader
Looks like a
at
Walker, doesn't he?
Mary's Elementary. Love sports and trading cards. Love Grammy and Papa.
That's great. Yeah. Emery Williams is celebrating her 12th birthday. Emery is in Nevada. And Emery, I want you to know that the special birthday message comes with love from Mom, Dad, JC, and Avon, who wish you the happiest of birthdays.
All right. And Landon Wilson, future basketball star there. Landon is in Neosho. His birthday was actually yesterday, but, you know, we're going to celebrate it all weekend long. Turning 12 years old this year.
This dude's now a teenager. Caleb Merrick. Happy 13th, Caleb. And we get a little Lubeck County pride right there. Happy birthday, my man.
All right. Allie Carlskid turns 14 years old this year with love from the entire family in Pittsburgh.
Let me swing around here. I want to see if Crowder College. No, okay. So Crowder's closed today, but that's okay. Because what that means is that Kaylee Van Way gets to sleep in on her birthday. That's the important part right there. There's Kaylee as she celebrates 19, and she's from Carthage, but right now she's a freshman at Crowder College. So Kaylee, I actually hope that your mom and dad can tell you that we announced your birthday. I hope you are doing the right college kid thing and sleeping in. And then everybody at Crowder, when you see Kaylee on Monday, tell her happy birthday.
All right. And Jonah Hensley celebrating birthday number 19 this year. Wish we could get outdoors like that. Jonah is in Joplin.
Love to know where Jonah was right there. That's nice. Jansen Miller celebrating her 24th birthday. Jansen, I want you to know that these happy birthday wishes come from Mom and Dad. She is in Nevada.
All right. And in Carthage, Jerry Alsdorf.
Whoa.
Turning 84 years old this year. Hope it's a great one, Jerry.
Or Jerry, if you ever want to, take us out for lunch or something. My goodness. That looks wonderful right there. Mm-hmm. I love that. Charlotte King, she is on the left right there. A happy birthday to Charlotte in Columbus. And her sister on the right, I am told, she made that cupcake.
That's important to know.
It's Charlotte's day, but Sis is trying to jump in there and be like, hey, don't forget, I made that cupcake for you, Charlotte. Happy birthday, Charlotte.
And we've got Maggie Mooney in Columbus celebrating a birthday today. Great picture there of Maggie. Hope you have a wonderful birthday.
Donna and Joe Wimp, they are celebrating their 70th anniversary. And I've got a little story about them right here. The 8 children of Don and Joe who were married February 26, 1952. Now, here's the deal. We got a reception going on tomorrow. We're going to roll this from 1 to 4 at the Oswego Community Center. This is open to everybody now. It's not like I'm just like throwing out invitations that shouldn't be. I want you to know that there we go. Saturday, tomorrow, 1 to 4 at the Oswego Community Center. Everybody run out there and wish Don and Joe a happy 70th anniversary. Congratulations, Don and Joe.
I understand it's a come and go celebration too, so you can
and
choose
we
your time between 1 and 4.
We got one here at home. Who that is?
Our very own Gary Cisco in Master Control. Happy birthday, Gary.
Happy birthday, Gary. Love that dude. Used to have our same schedule. Get to see him a whole lot more. Richard Schramm celebrating his 81st birthday. Mr. Schramm is in Nevada, Riverton, excuse me. Very happy birthday to you, Richard. Bob Rowland celebrating a birthday. He goes by Buck. You may know him as Buck. Happy birthday, Buck. And Mary Lou Wilson. Mary Lou is celebrating her 95th birthday. Mary Lou, a happy birthday to you in Chanute.
All right, Alice Cooper is celebrating. Yeah, Alice Cooper in Columbus.
No, it's not that. It's our Alice Cooper here in the 4 states, Tanya. It's a different.
Well, we don't have an age on it. This Alice.
Our Alice Cooper is much nicer than the other Alice Cooper.
Okay.
Which is terrible because I don't even know like the singer Alice Cooper. I actually just kind of threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Alice.
And Madison Joe Haggerty is celebrating a birthday in Frontenac.
A happy birthday and happy anniversary to all. Remember, go out there and wish the Wimps a happy 70th anniversary as well. That's where you can send them into birthdays at KOAMTV.com. You can also go to our website at KOAMNewsNow.com. Now here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Coming up when we transition over the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm sure you're familiar with those characters and that scene because the groundbreaking miniseries Roots is celebrating its 45th anniversary this year. Two of the stars reflect on its lasting legacy and talk about its impact that it still has almost 5 decades later. That's coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, and we'll be back right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The winter storm may be on the way out, but roads can still be dangerous. Road crews in Missouri are working to keep drivers safe, but there are some things to keep in mind. The storm brought sleet and freezing rain, with temperatures remaining low. That ice hasn't been able to melt. It might not always be easy to see. KDOT pre-treated roads in Kansas with a salt mixture, and officials there say the roads in Kansas are back to normal. Even still, they warn there could be some slick spots, so always keep an eye out. Missouri lawmakers have passed a stopgap budget plan that again seeks to strip any public funding from Planned Parenthood while paying for Medicaid expansion and pumping money to schools. Budget plan is primarily needed to dole out roughly $1.7 billion in federal funding directly to schools before the end of the state fiscal year in June. But Republicans also added a provision aimed at blocking public funding for Planned Parenthood centers, including clinics that do not provide abortions. And Republicans in the Kansas legislature moved to block local bans, restrictions, or taxes on plastic bags or other packaging. The state Senate voted for a bill that would strip cities and counties of their power to regulate or tax bags, cups, bottles, or other packaging. The measure would cover not only plastic, but cloth, paper, cardboard, aluminum, glass, or foamed plastics such as styrofoam. The bill goes next to the House. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Our temperatures right now not even close to the 20-degree mark. We've seen Miami and Grove bebop back and forth between 16 and 18. Look at all the single digits throughout southeast Kansas. 12 and 13 are dominant numbers in southwest Missouri. Bundle up, multiple layers. Watch the exposed skin as well. And really, just it's going to be an all-day affair because high 20s. We'll see a 30 every now and then. Overnight, cloud cover begins to build, kind of ebbs and flows. Not a bad thing because that will head us in the right direction. Up to 40 on Saturday, 50 on Sunday. Close out February, close to 60. And then first full week of March, bringing us 60-degree temps as well.
All right, well, coming up today at noon, we're making Italian beef roll-ups in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Who was it that we had on the birthday list there that I wanted to go to lunch with? Jerry Alsdorf. It was Jerry Alsdorf.
Probably Oakland Corwin as
maybe
well.
Maybe I can get
she
Howard.
Lives in there.
Maybe I can get Howard so I show up to Jerry's party with something.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
There you go.
Just being polite.
Bring some roll-ups.
Your morning news continues on KOAM with the CBS Morning News coming up next. Team coverage from Ukraine underway and how the Russian invasion could play a factor into how much we pay for gas.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. This morning, we'll tell you about a POW who finally gets a proper burial 70 years later.
Try to stay warm today. Do us a favor. Be safe. We'll do this all again on Monday morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.